Sharon Gavitt. Welcome to this webinar on behalf of the McGuire Programme. Tonight I'm going to introduce you to some of our members here in the Irish region, and they're going to share some of their stories about how their speech and their stutter impacted on their life both before and after they joined the McGuire Programme. We also have a special guest from Triple Vision Productions, and Eamon's going to be talking about the possibility of something exciting coming up in the future. So the first person I'd like to introduce is Megan Gribben. And Megan, welcome to the webinar. Tell me a little bit about yourself and when you joined the McGuire Programme. When was your first course?
Megan Gribben. So my first course was in 2010. I was 17 when I joined the McGuire Programme.
And Megan, how did you hear about the McGuire Programme? Was this something that you were aware of, or was it a family member who thought this would be something good for you to take part in?
So it was actually a speech therapist on the NHS that advised me about the McGuire Programme. And then myself and my mum saw a TV programme on it as well, and she was encouraging me then after it. But it took a bit of time for me to accept that I had to go.
Okay. Megan, I have a little clip of your first day video. Are you happy for me to show this?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, let's have a look at this.
Can I get your name, address, and telephone number, please?
So, Megan, I know that we could let that video go on a lot longer and there'd be still no sound coming from it. Tell me a little bit about how you were feeling there on that Wednesday night.
So yeah, that Wednesday evening is a feeling that I'll never forget. Really difficult experience to be on that chair and not being able to say Megan on it. It was heartbreaking and yeah, really tough.
Yeah, you look petrified. Were you scared sitting there?
I was petrified, yeah.
And tell me, what were your thoughts about what was going to happen over the next coming days? What were your, I suppose, hopes or your aspirations?
I didn't really have any hopes, to be honest. I thought that I was beyond help, that my stammer was so bad that I would be like that permanently. So it took me a good while to realize that I can overcome it and control it.
And we know that the McGuire Programme works over a 3-day residential course. And, you know, during each day of the course, we build on different elements. You know, we work on our physical side of stuttering. We work on the psychological side of stuttering. So was there any particular time during those 3 days that you could see a breakthrough and you could see that there was a change happening?
Yeah, definitely. And it was probably on the final day for me when I was able to say my name and make a speech in Galway just in the space of them 3 days, which meant a lot to me. And yeah, Mum was with me for the course, and I think she cried for the whole 3 days.
Wow. I actually have a little clip of you doing your public speaking on the Saturday. So I'm just going to show this little clip, Megan.
Megan Gribben. I couldn't even.
So, Megan, I suppose the first thing that I see, apart from hearing you say your name so confidently, but I suppose the most important thing was that smile on your face, because that certainly wasn't there on Wednesday night. So tell me, what gave you the confidence to stand in that public street and to be able to say your name like that?
I think it was definitely the support of the other coaches and being in a room filled with people who understood and had went through it. It's a very powerful place to be, is on a course and with people who really understand. And that's not something that I ever had. I thought that I had this thing that was wrong with me and nobody understood and nothing would ever help.
And before you joined the McGuire Programme, what was your daily speech like? Like, how did you manage to have conversations? You know, how were you able to interact with people, or were you able to interact with people?
I was able to interact with my family and a couple of my close friends, but they did most of the speaking for me. I never answered the phone or ordered a meal. I didn't do anything independently. So I relied heavily on other people, and even in school as well, I didn't have to answer the roll call. So I was just left out of it because the teachers knew that I wouldn't be able to answer it. So then we things.
Yeah. And, you know, those little small things that I suppose so many other people can possibly take for granted, but if you're being relied to say your name in school, and you know that's one of the hardest things to be able to say, it can cause quite a lot of anxiety and worry as well, can't it?
Definitely. And even though it was a relief that I didn't have to say it, it was hurtful that you are being skipped over and you feel it.
Yeah. And tell me, what are you doing now? I know you've had a bit of a big career change in the last couple of years, haven't you?
Yes. So life has transformed quite a lot for me. So I'm doing mental health nursing now, and I work for the NHS, and it's a job that I always wanted to do. So yeah, it's amazing, and I can't quite believe sometimes that this is where I am compared to the girl that was in the video, the very scared girl. So yeah.
Yeah. Megan, you know, you truly have, you've worked hard over the past number of years on your speech. And I suppose you can really see the benefits of, you know, challenging yourself, taking those steps, and I suppose trusting in yourself and your own abilities in what you've learned on the McGuire Programme and putting them into practice on a daily basis. So thank you, Megan, for sharing your story with everyone, because I think a lot of people can relate to, you know, those feelings and those insecurities that you've spoken about. Thanks, Megan. So the next person that is going to come forward is Mary Moorhead. And Mary, you joined the McGuire Programme back in 2009, is that right?
I did, yes. And I joined. It took me a long time to pick up the courage to attend the course, and I just wanted someone or something to help me with my stutter, because I was just feeling so hopeless. There was no way I could see how it was going to work.
And what was the driving force that made you take that first step?
There was probably a lot of reasons, but the main one was my mum was ill at the time and we were looking after her. And I realized that if I had to phone a doctor or an ambulance, I couldn't have done it. And that was so frightening and scary.
Mary, I have a clip of your first day video. I know you said that I could show it, so let's have a look at where you were back in 2009.
How did you hear about the McGuire Programme?
It was a news program on Ulster TV.
Mary, you also, like Megan, looked very scared sitting there, and if I can say, you actually look years younger sitting here now chatting to us. I think there's a big smile, and you look like the weight of the world has been taken off your shoulders. Were you working at the time when you did your first course?
I was working, yes, and spent a lot of my time manipulating my work colleagues to answer the phone and doing a lot of avoiding and possibly just one-word answers. And looking at that video, I thought I was so clever at hiding my stammer, but obviously not, because the fear and the panic was just awful.
And when you went back to work then after your first course, did you notice a change then in how you were interacting with your work colleagues, or how you went about your day-to-day workload?
I did. I made a point of disclosing and telling the guys where I had been for the last couple of days. And they probably knew that I struggled with my speech, but never really said anything. And from then on, we always had to check, work, read out what had been typed up, say, to make sure it was 100%. So that was a big one for me. I usually would have got one of the other girls to read it out, and I would have checked it. So it reversed that role, and that was a great turning point for me.
You mentioned there that you spoke to your work colleagues about where you'd been and what you had done. I suppose with stammering, as people who stutter, we tend to, I suppose, avoid talking about stuttering, or we try and hide it the best we can. How did you feel after, I suppose, being able to speak openly and freely then about your stutter? Was that a bit of a weight off your shoulders?
It actually was, because I never realized until the McGuire Programme that when I went to bed at night, it was as if there was a mountain on top of my head. And learning about the psychological part of stammering made me realize that the anxiety, the trauma, was all part of it, and I hadn't realized that. And the first day of the program, the course, when I went to bed that night, there was no mountain. It was gone.
Wow. And just one more question I just want to ask you, Mary. How did stuttering make you feel on a day-to-day basis? And I suppose looking back now, like, what's it like to, I suppose, have you control your stutter now instead of your stutter controlling you in how you speak?
I would say that before the McGuire Programme, on a daily basis, it was a conflict every day between me and my stutter. The trauma, the anxiety, the fear was the big one. of being asked a question and not being able to answer. And I think it was the fear of being seen as a person with a stammer. After the programme, the small things in life make a big difference. And recently I went for an eye test. And to be able to read that eye chart, those alphabet letters, was a triumph for me, because before it was a real struggle. And I came out of the opticians smiling and thinking, you know what, that was pretty good. So it really is fantastic.
Oh, well done, Mary. And great to hear those stories, and particularly just those little things that we do on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, Mary, for sharing your story and for us watching your video as well. We'll chat soon.
Thank you.
Well, what an amazing story there from Mary. Next, we have Shannon, and Shannon's going to join us. Shannon's up in Donegal. Shannon, you did your first course back in 2016, is that right?
I did, Sharon, 8 years ago, and can honestly say it's been the best 8 years of my life. Joining the McGuire Programme's the best decision I ever made. And I would highly encourage anybody who's watching, who's maybe a little bit hesitant on it, honestly, do it. It will be the best decision you ever make as well.
Shannon, I'm going to show a little clip from your first day video as well, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually just finished. So I did it for 4 years in Coleraine, studying in environmental science.
So you're looking for a job now?
Yeah, or else I go on and do a master's maybe. I don't.
Well, Shannon, that word environmental certainly gave you a lot of trouble there, didn't it?
Oh, definitely, Sharon. M's were the bane of my life. And finally being able to say I studied environmental science with confidence is such a great feeling. So it is. Yeah, I'd actually just finished my course when I joined the programme. And it's funny looking back, for the last 6 years of college, I remember racking my brain thinking, what job can I get where I can just sit down the back of somewhere and not have to speak to anyone? And the thought of attending interviews and actually having to speak to people, I thought there's no way that I can continue like this. So joining the programme and going from the mindset where what can I do where I don't have to speak to people to now what can I do where I have to speak to people and I can speak to people. It's a whole change for me. So now I work in consultancy. So I do a lot of talking on a daily basis. Before the programme, that's something that was just not an option for me at all. I hated speaking to people. I couldn't speak to people. It was such a massive fear for me. And now that's something that I really enjoy with my job. I love going out and speaking to clients, speaking to architects, speaking to local council, anybody at all. And like that's been a massive, massive change in my life. And it just goes to show you what you can actually achieve.
I suppose that's been a complete change around for you then, isn't it? You know, going from thinking about a job you can hide down the back of an office to actively going out and spending your day just speaking to people. That's amazing. What have been the standout moments for you since doing your first course?
For me, a few years ago, I did a talk in my local school for the 5th and 6th years, telling them all about my job and what I do. And I spoke to a group of over 250 of them. And for me, that was such a huge achievement. Going from being absolutely terrified to speak to people to being able to give a talk and be confident with what I'm saying. It was just the weight I felt and the high I felt after I stepped out of the room, it was the most amazing feeling. It's just little things like that, you know, even like going out for food. I used to order something that I could say as opposed to what I wanted, or I get whoever was there with me to order my food. And even just picking up the phone and calling somebody, it's the little things that like some people wouldn't even think twice about that are huge achievements.
And I suppose it's important as well that, you know, when you do that first course within those 3 days, when you finish your course, you're still at a level where you're using your techniques, and you need to build and work on those. So what type of daily routine did you have after your course in order to, I suppose, get your speech to a level that you have it at the moment?
So after my course, I had to work on making uncomfortable things comfortable for me and really pushing out my comfort zone. So that involved doing a lot of contacts on a daily basis. So contacts are where you're speaking to somebody, be it either face to face or on the phone. And that was always a huge, huge challenge for me. So I would force myself to do that. And slowly but surely, it started off, I was really, really scared doing them. But the more I did it, and the more I became used to doing it, the more comfortable I became. And I did that on a daily basis for months afterwards. And because I could do that, I could see my fear level coming down with every single thing that I did. And then because my fear level was coming down, I could feel my speech getting stronger and stronger.
Brilliant. So, you know, there is some work to be done after those 3 days on the course, but I suppose it's like anything, the harder you work at something, the better the results that you get.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And everything involves hard work, whether it's trying out a new sport or like trying out a new diet, maybe. What you put in, you will get out. And the more hard work that you put in the early stages, your speech will really, really progress. Whereas if you leave it for a while, you can start to slip back to your old ways. And coming off your course, you're really, really strong with your speech. And so if you keep going, you know, putting in the hard work straight after your course, you will see you'll be flying.
Great. Well, Shannon, it's great to see the progress you have made over the past number of years, and obviously you're really enjoying that job of yours in environmental science. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's great to see that, you know, you haven't allowed your stutter to dictate the type of job you're going to do, and you've actually gone and done what it is you wanted to do. So thanks for joining us, and we'll chat again a little bit later. So our next member from the McGuire Programme, and this is Cormac King. And Cormac, welcome to tonight's webinar. So Cormac, you were quite young when you did your first course, weren't you?
I was, Sharon. I was 15 when I decided that I wanted to do something about my stutter.
And was this a decision that you had made for yourself?
Yeah, about a year ago, I sat down in front of a laptop and started Googling how to cure my stutter. And one of the first things I came across was the McGuire Programme. This is not a cure for stuttering. So thankfully, kind of a paradoxical situation, but I found something so much greater. But I came across a documentary, a Channel 4 documentary, and I just watched it in tears because I could just relate to everyone in that room. And it was a documentary about the McGuire Programme and the course in the 3 days. And straight away, I just went and looked up the McGuire Programme to see what it was about and how I could start my journey, which I did in November 2011.
Cormac, I'm going to show a little clip from your first day video, and yes, you're looking a lot younger than you are now. So let's see where you were at back in 2011.
Any words or sounds, situations that you find difficult?
Probably now, and on the phone, and the word go, and S's.
If I had reception in here, I'd make you make a phone call, but we don't. So I'll ask you to read. There we go.
Good. So now that we sort of have the physical idea of stammering in relation to respiratory, psychologically, let's put it into a usable theory. The diaphragm, probably the curl diaphragm, in those who stammer is chronologically contracted, and it should be relaxing, which disrupts the airflow. Also a thing called subglottic pressure.
So Cormac, tell me a little bit about that. I know reading aloud some of those words there just caught you up, didn't it?
Yeah, when I was reading aloud, I couldn't avoid any words. I couldn't substitute words. You know, one of the questions there was, what sports do you enjoy? And really, 13 years later, I can't say I watch golf or football or any of those sports really. So saying what you want to say rather than just saying things for the sake of saying is a great feeling. And I would have hid behind my mother quite a lot in restaurants, and she would have ordered my food as well. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to be able to do those type of things myself.
Yeah, and I suppose from some of your video there, I noticed like some of your words seem to flow quite easy for you. And I know as people who stammer, we tend to be very cautious of the words we can use and the words we say, because we do want to try and hide our stutter. But did you ever have people thinking or saying to you, you know, Osha Cormac, you're grand, your stutter's not that bad, sure, it's only one or two words that you get stuck on?
Yeah, all the time. Everyone thought, oh, Cormac's just quiet. Cormac's a quiet one in the King family. And that edit me more than anything else, because in my head I'm like, I'm not quiet, I have so much I want to say. I want to say this, I want to say that, all of that. And yeah, people would have thought, oh, Cormac's grand, he's okay, he's a stutter, but it's all right. But it was all up here and how I was feeling, and no one knew how I was feeling because, number one, I couldn't tell them, and I always felt like I was the loner in the corner and no one understood. I couldn't tell anyone. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. So all these things kind of rattle around your head and your mind, and they kind of fuel each other to bring that fear of stuttering to the forefront. And yeah, it's not a nice place to be as well.
And you had mentioned earlier that you were 15, so you were still in school when you did the McGuire Programme. And I suppose coming back to school after your first course probably filled you with some confidence then to be able to start getting more involved and I suppose planning out your future in terms of where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do.
Definitely. I was young. I filled with this passion. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to change my world. And Monday morning, when I came to that lunch bell ringing, I was running to that canteen. You know, I avoided the canteen as well. You know, Sharon, you've heard this story many times before personally, but I avoided the canteen like at all costs. It was my no-go area, not happening. And I'd go and I'd pick a sandwich and a water and I'd walk around the school for lunch period. And again, people wouldn't know or people wouldn't have realized, but I kind of thought the whole world is going to change now. I am ready for this. I thought 3 months, 3 months, and that'll be my cure. But I soon realised after about 3 months, it doesn't quite work like that. As Megan and Shannon and Mary have said, this is a lifetime process. This is a sport that we're now working at, and the more you work at it, the easier it becomes. And yeah, there's many battles, but the more you keep battling at it and failing a few times and working at it and the support from the coaches, then you're able to become stronger in time.
And when you left school, I know you went into university, you wanted to study hospitality. So where has that taken you to now?
Yeah, well, before I studied hospitality, I always kind of pigeoned myself into computing. So I left school and did a foundation degree in computing, and then went to Jordanstown to do that as a degree. And that was always computing, safe bet, office, speaking. And the more that I worked hard in the McGuire program, the more that I was like, this isn't for me. This is boring me. So I grew up in hospitality in my family's bar and restaurant, and this led me then to join Hastings Hotels as a waiter, and then I then dropped out of computing and decided for my sins that I would study hospitality management, which allowed me to travel to America twice to work and to have a very good time there, but pushing out comfort zones as well. So I graduated from university in that, and then was a manager within Hastings Hotels. And then I've since left Hastings in the past 5 months or so, and I've now reopened my family's pub, having been closed for 4 years due to COVID. So it's a new challenge as well, and a lot of speaking opportunities as well. But fantastic that I would have never have put myself on this playing field if it wasn't for taking that first step to find the McGuire program and to make the call and make the choice to take the chance. And here we are now.
Well, that's amazing, Cormac. And as you say, you know, running your own business now, I mean, you're the one that has to do all the speaking, you're the one that has to organize everything. So there's no hiding, there's no holding back. And what an amazing opportunity for you now to really push yourself and challenge yourself and build your business as well.
This is it. Baby steps.
Baby steps. Cormac, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll chat a little later with you. So our last guest is Eamon, and this is Eamon Devlin. Eamon joins us from Triple Vision Productions. And Eamon, welcome to the webinar. We have a possibility for one of our new students from the Northern Ireland region on our upcoming course that hopefully they might like to take part in a documentary that you're recording. You might tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think first of all, I'd like to say I feel quite humbled because obviously, you know, Megan, Mary, Shannon, and Cormac have all come through the program, and I mean they spoke amazingly, brilliantly, you know, and in many ways it was through Cormac that actually, you know, we met Cormac through Triple Vision, making Hotel People about the Hastings Hotel Group. So Cormac actually introduced us to the McGuire program, and we realized quite quickly that the program changed lives. And as a documentary maker, we want to be making films about sort of things that transform lives and make a difference out there. And we were really inspired with Cormac's story, and you know, listening to Mary and Megan and Shannon, and obviously yourself, you know, Sharon, you know, it's an amazing sort of, you know, process that you guys go through. It's inspirational. It gives hope. You know, it just transforms people. And you know, Megan talking about you know, sort of mental health nursing, and Shannon saying it was, she's had the best 8 years of her life since that's a documentary maker's dream, so we obviously have seen other documentaries made about this, but there's never been one made locally in terms of sort of Ireland, Northern Ireland, north of Ireland, whatever, so we really wanted to sort of jump on board and help sort of tell that story. I mean, one of the big things that we recognize as a sort of non-stammerers as such is the notion of the stigma that's attached and the fear. And Cormac, you actually mentioned the Cormac, the notion of people probably listening to this are thinking, well, you've only got a few words that you're stammering, the S's and a bit, but I mean, there's a whole world of sort of masking and people sort of avoiding words that challenge them. So, we really wanted to sort of get in deep and sort of look at sort of the story of stammering and the challenges it causes has on people's lives, and how it can sort of stunt their growth, how it can stop them sort of fulfilling their dreams, and really that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to come aboard, and thankfully you guys in the McGuire Programme have sort of welcomed us in with open arms and offered us this opportunity. It's an opportunity. I'm sure that people are sitting out there thinking, the last thing on earth I want with a stammer is to go on a TV program. I mean, like, are you joking me? But the programs that the guys earlier have referenced, have changed lives. People have watched those programs, been inspired to go on the McGuire Programme, and have had the opportunity to change their lives, to fulfill their dreams, to speak at the wedding, as best man, or do a talk in front of the school, or go in and do the simple thing like read in front of the rest of the class. So it's even the small things. So I know it's a big thing for people to think, oh God, the last thing I want to do is allow these people to come with a camera and film me. But believe you me, you can change other people's lives by sharing your story. And we're so confident that the McGuire Programme is brilliant, that we know at the end of those 3 days, you're going to be standing in that soapbox, like Megan, like Mary, like Shannon, like Cormac, and you're going to be saying your name, maybe not giving your phone number because that would be strange on television, but you're going to be able to share something with that group, and the audience at home will immediately see that, that all their fears about their stammer, can be overcome. And that's what we're trying to showcase. We're trying to showcase ordinary people overcoming something that is extremely challenging. And I mean, everybody sort of mentioned that hard work that needs to be put in to do that. So we're not saying it's going to be easy, but we're very, very excited about filming that process. And, we can talk more about that. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, that's okay, Eamon. And sure, isn't it great to talk, because I suppose that's what we're here to do on the McGuire Programme, is to give people that opportunity to talk and say what they want to say. But I suppose for some of our returning members on the programme, or possibly some of our new students who possibly would be anxious or wouldn't want to be involved, or they wouldn't want to be recorded, there are safeguards in place for people that when there's a person who is willing to be recorded for your documentary, the recording is only concentrated on that person. Isn't that right? Absolutely.
Look, there's a couple of things. If you sign up for the program, you're not signing up to be in the documentary.
Exactly.
So we, ideally, if you sign up for the program, we just want the opportunity to sit down on a one-to-one basis with you and chat with you, your loved ones, your guardians, or whoever it is, and explain in detail what we will require. Anyone who doesn't want to be filmed as part of this process won't be filmed. I mean, we have, we've ways of separating the sort of the people that are taking part in the documentary and those that aren't. And just, I mean, as an overriding sort of theme, I mean, we've made so many documentaries about, cancer, about Down syndrome, about so many sensitive issues. You know, we're very, very experienced, and we have a duty of care to everyone that's in the film and those who are doing the program that aren't going to be in the film, you know, to ensure that, you know, you're safeguarded and that, you know, you can trust us with the stories that you tell us. And I suppose one of the other things that people sort of fear when this is a 30-minute film, you know, we will only be filming sort of a day, sort of a few hours, 5-6 hours with you before you do the program. We'll film the program, which is 3 days, and we'll film sort of for a day afterwards. So it's a 5-day commitment, and it's not even 5 full days. And you'll be featured for around about 6 minutes within the entire program, because we're going to be filming some of the people that have completed the program in the past, and obviously some of the new entrants that are undertaking the program this year. And so although it sounds like, oh my God, you know, they're just going to be staring at me for 30 minutes telling my story, it's not like that. You're going to be able to tell a little bit of your story. It's going to be intercut with other people's stories, and it's also going to be spliced in with, you know, the people that are taking the program, like Cormac and Megan and Mary and yourself, Sharon, because I mean, that's one of the most inspirational aspects of it, is that, you know, the people who are actually taking the program and guiding the new entrants through the program have lived experience. You know, that's what makes it so powerful. You know, that you're the guys that are saying, right, well, I know what you're going through. I've been there, I've felt it, and I'm going to take you on a step-by-step guide. So it may seem daunting, but we won't even engage in sort of getting you involved in the filming until we've sat down with you in your home or wherever it suits to sort of chat about it further, and for you to ask as many questions as you like. And, you know, we're there to help and steer you through the program with the help of the very experienced program, you know, tutors and mentors.
Brilliant. And Eamon, I suppose if anybody was interested in taking part in the documentary, that they could obviously have a chat with you themselves to be reassured, and you could go through the process, I suppose, in more details with them as well. And we can certainly facilitate that, you know, that contact then if we do have people who would be interested in taking part.
Absolutely. You know, and I mean, we just want the opportunity to sort of sit down with you. This is not, you know, this is an over sort of view for what we're doing with the program, you know, in terms of our documentary, you know, in terms of actually organizing the logistics of making the documentary. We will sit down with you and go through everything in person, and then you're still free to make a decision as to whether you want to progress or not. You know, there's no obligation to be part of this. We want people, when we make documentaries, to want to share their story, because many of the people, you know, when we're filming a documentary about cancer, there's people who want to tell that story so that they can help others, whether it's the challenges of treatment, whether it's the challenges of losing your hair, whether it's the challenge of, you know, thinking you're going to lose somebody close to you. Those are the big things that play in other people's minds and change lives. So that's why we're making this program. We're not making it in any way to embarrass anybody or to point fingers at anybody. We're there to show triumph over adversity. And we know that we're not saying, look, we're filming a 3-day cure. We know that this is a lifelong journey. But we're not going to spend the rest of your lives with you.
So
5 days, 5 days is all I need.
What you're telling me is we won't have a camera crew following us around for the rest of our lives.
Only, Sharon, if you want it. But I mean, you know, that's no, you'll not. It's a very fixed time.
Brilliant.
And just for peace of mind, you know, I mean, we will be sitting with you, and you will see the film before everybody else sees it on BBC. We'll be sitting down with you, showing you it and reviewing it with you, You know, there's going to be no surprises there. You're not going to be sitting on Tuesday night at 10:30, you know, biting your nails. You've already seen it. You'll be comfortable with it, and you'll be happy with what we do. I can assure you that.
Fantastic, Eamon. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring the rest of the guests back into the room here. Mary, Megan, Shannon, and Cormac. So I suppose just before we wrap things up, I'd like to thank you all. Eamon, thank you for your insight.
For having me.
Documentary, and Cormac, Megan, Shannon, and Mary, thank you so much for, I suppose, sharing your stories, you know, being open and honest and talking about, I suppose, how tough things were before you joined the McGuire Programme, and I suppose the triumphs that you've had since your first course. And I suppose one thing that Mary had mentioned there, and it just got me thinking, she spoke about her recent trip to the optician and that little small thing. Guys, have you any little small things that you've done recently where you kind of thought, wow, this used to be such a big deal, and now I can just go and do this with so much ease now?
I think it's just going into the likes of restaurant and ordering what you want to order. I know sitting down before the restaurant, and the only anxiety I have is what am I going to eat? Because before it was, right, can I have that? Looking through it, and whereas now I'm like, oh, what do I want to eat? What do I fancy? Plus, how can I make this a little bit more challenging as well, and to have fun with speaking? So for me, it's being able to order a carbonara when I want to have a carbonara, or order a fillet steak medium rare with pepper sauce and some garlic potatoes.
You're making me hungry, Cormac.
Yeah, you've had a movie too.
Could I just say something, Sharon, just in terms of, you know, one of the things that I often think about, and I'm sure it impacts all of you, is people who meet someone with a stammer, and that oh my God, you know, they don't know whether to speak or to listen or what to do next, and you know, that's one of the things that we'd like to sort of obviously, you know, deal with in this film. What's your guys' perspective on that? Because I'm sure that's one of the things that's an underlying fear for people going, you know, I don't want to talk to someone because I don't want to see the reaction. I don't want to have to see them have that sort of, that stare, that crazy sort of like, what do I do?
I suppose it's a very personal thing, and some people will handle it in different ways. And I know for myself, I was always more open if somebody asked me, you know, would you like me to help you say that word, or, you know, would you prefer if I just allowed you time? But I think the best thing you can do is just give people time. And I suppose the reaction on people's faces, I suppose that's the one thing, as people who stammer, that's the first thing we see is someone else's reaction, which I suppose reinforces that idea of, oh, I'm different. I can't say what I want to say. And I suppose that creates the fear and the panic even more. Well, I suppose for, you know, if you have a friend or a loved one, you know, have that open conversation, because it's when we don't talk about things, that's when it becomes a bigger deal for people. But certainly, you know, giving people time to speak on their own terms is probably the best thing that you can do. Just in terms of, you know, the little wins in life, one of the most challenging words for me used to be saying numbers such as 4 and 5, and they were the ones that would always stump me. So when I'd go into a petrol station, I would always go to the petrol pubs that were 1, 2, or 3, because I wasn't going to struggle when I went to the till to pay for the petrol, where now when I go in to get petrol, I actively go looking for pubs 4 and 5. So it just gives me that opportunity to, I suppose, go back and recreate all those chances that I missed out on previously, in terms of having to avoid or having to queue to wait for a petrol pump that I knew I could say the number, instead of trying to go in and struggle through a word that I knew I couldn't say. But guys, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I want to thank you all for your time this evening. It was great to have you all here. For anyone who is looking for more information on the McGuire Programme, you can visit our website, McGuireProgramme.com, and information on upcoming courses, information on the different regions and the support. And also, there's lots of interesting stories from lots of other members as well. So take care, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.